Hi Ben, how's it going, man?
Hello, Tino. Not bad, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, still in one piece. Did you enjoy yourself at Probe this weekend?
Very much so. The weather was awful, but hearts were warm, and I think that's what you need now.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Definitely.
But back to
Yeah,
real life now, eh?
yeah, I know a bit of the old. It's always a bit of a crash down to reality at the end of Probe. You know, you're on the high, and then suddenly it ends very suddenly, and it's boom back into the real world,
We
so
do get
called.
we do get those downers after a good conference, don't we?
Definitely, yeah, I really do. I really do. It's good to talk to you, and you're making this little video because
Yeah,
I know we need to talk about certain things
yeah.
that have
There's
been
a
going
there's
on.
there's a few things that have been thrown in your direction in recent times, and I just feel
Yeah,
it's fair that you have a right to reply because a number of people have said stuff about you, and you can't reply to them, and there's no balance in the arguments. So
exactly.
the floor is yours. Where would you like to
Thanks.
start, sir?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a lot of things being said about me. I'm not the sort of person who goes looking for trouble. I'm not. I don't like falling out with people. I don't enjoy getting into conflicts with other people within our community. In fact, I really despise doing that. I'm aware that it is an unpleasant duty, and sometimes you can't avoid it. And to try and avoid it is, in a way, complicit, especially when the what you're avoiding is a serious piece of injustice and harm. I think everyone has a duty to make a stand against things like that.
Yeah, I think
And
it's important that you come off the fence sometimes and really say what you've got to say. And if it upsets people, upsets people. But if they respect you, then
yeah,
they'll be willing to accept what you have to say, if not necessarily like it.
exactly. I mean, I stay out of other people's business, but what we're going to talk about tonight is not other people's business. This is something that's affected us all because,
Yeah.
and this is something that I'm glad to have made a stand in this issue. I wouldn't be proud of myself. I wouldn't feel very pleased with myself if I didn't actually. However, much there are times when I think to myself, "Oh God, what am I doing? Why don't I just stay out of it like so many other people do?" But I suppose should I go back to the beginning about when all this kicked off?
Always a good place to start, Ben.
Yeah, start at the very beginning. Well, I think you could trace it pretty much back to pretty accurately to July 2015. So it's a long history behind all this, and this was when Colonel Holt, Colonel Charles I. Holt, U.S. Air Force retired, came to the Woodbridge. So he did a special show at Woodbridge and at Rendlesham Forest, and he came over and um, did a lecture at the Woodbridge Town Hall, a regular place for all Rendlesham Forest related issues. And then before that, he did a tour through the day, and
Just,
and
just,
John
just,
Hanson.
just to refresh people's memory, this was around this was the 11th of July 2015.
To be precise, yes, this was the day.
Yeah.
This is the day it happened. And when I heard about this, I was very excited. In fact, I I thought it would be really a major historical event in the annals of ufology for one of the principal witnesses of the RFI to actually be in the country and in that where it happened, 35 years after it happened. You don't often get this in the UFO field, and so I was determined to go along.
And who organised it, Ben?
It was John Hanson, who's a very well-known, very prolific UFO author. He's written his Encyclopedia of Ufology, which is quite an epic. It's an epic, very very sophisticated pictorial history of the entire phenomenon from start to finish. It's quite a task he set himself, and he's done a good job so far. Um, and he contacted me actually, and he asked me if I would come. I would actually be involved actively, not just come along and listen, but actually be involved actively. And I actually did a radio show, a radio interview with him, which you can still hear. The podcast is available, so please do check that out. I can't remember what number of the Hapanwa radio it is, but if you Google his name, you'll find it. I think it's a couple of months before July 2015. I did it,
Okay.
and and he actually said to me, "Can you Could you sort of do a video?" Because he watched my videos on YouTube. He know I have an interest in the subject and a passion for it, and would I do a video for it? He didn't specify at the time whether or not that video was to be put on YouTube or not. I assumed it was. I know in his book he has actually stated regret in his book that he wasn't more precise with the arrangements for that because a lot of trouble broke out as a result of my video. and I think he feels he should have made more secure. He doesn't actually go as far as to say it was my fault, but he said he thinks there should have been more stringent arrangements made. I mean, he has made other statements since then,
I was just
which
going
I'm
to
sure
say,
we're going to go into.
Yeah, a recent statement. He did say that you were a cause of misconduct in deliberately breaking a promise to him and Charles Holt in filming the event and putting it out publicly when you promised to them all that it would be private.
That's upsetting for me. That I was going to say that John Hanson thinks that way, but I know he doesn't think that way. He's saying that. That is false.
So that statement that he's made is incorrect.
Yes.
Okay.
I made no such promise, and no such stricture was actually placed on my production design.
Okay.
On my production procedure. I was under the impression that there was nothing wrong with my normal production procedure, which is to release the videos immediately onto YouTube.
Were you paid or anything for the day, for the filming, or?
No, I asked John for. I said, "Would you cover my?" He actually said he would cover my expenses, as all the staff members had their expenses covered. He gave me a tip on. He gave me a little bit extra actually, which he went up and he said, I didn't ask him for that, but he gave me a little bit extra, and it was a say yes or no situation. I said, yes, thank you very much.
Okay, I think it's only because someone alluded to the fact that you borrowed £60 from him, and that person was told that by him that you never repaid that £60.
That is untrue. That's untrue. I mean, I think it's important from the outset that I make the point that we're essentially involved in a situation where you cannot reply logically and rationally to anything that has been said by the people who are currently involved in this little clique of what I call the anti-Larry Warren cult. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to call it a cult. You cannot have a rational discussion with them. They will not give you a fair hearing.
So what you're saying is that anyone that shows any form of support for Larry will be drawn into this and not be given a fair hearing, as you say.
Yes, and I think this is the reason for this. I mean, in a minute I want to discuss some of the things I've written about Larry over the last couple of months and the response to that. And I think we are in a situation where we're saying you can't possibly have any kind of discussion with these people because they don't wish to enter into a logical discussion. What they want to do is they want to be as wounding and inflammatory as possible. And they have it says they have no scruples about breaching what you call normal rationality and the rules of logic. So I can't say, well, that's I mean, this is an example. I mean, I can't go to these people and say, well, that's not true because, or that's not fair because every word I say will be turned into ammunition to be fired back at me. They're not trying to make a rational argument. They're trying to engage you in an exchange of angry insults. So that's all that matters. You cannot. Any kind of interaction with them is impossible. I could hurl abuse back at them. That's about it. That's all you can do. It's what this is essentially noise. It's gibberish, but it's a kind of gibberish that some people will believe. This I think is the problem. This is why I'm making this video with you, because I know that some people will believe it. Some people will actually read this and think it's true, and they won't check it. So this essentially is a chapter. This is where I want to clear my name.
Oh.
And that being said, I think from what I gather, me and John and I both wanted the same thing out of this event at Woodbridge. We both wanted it to have we wanted it to be a happy and a enjoyable event. We wanted it to be what it was, a historical event which everyone could be proud to be a part of. That's what I wanted. That's what he wanted. Now, the fact that it wasn't, or things went wrong, it's unfair to put that blame onto me. And I think John is essentially responding to the environment that he's in. He's among a group of people who, as I said, want to hurl insults and meaningless insults without any substance or form at all. And John has clearly been influenced by this group that he's in, and his falling into line.
A lot of this did start obviously at that time.
Yeah.
Colonel Holt, in his lecture, I believe, the sort of last half hour or so, was just a big tirade against Larry Warren.
It was indeed, and so was a considerable proportion of the tour when he was going around the forest, and he's talking about his UFO sighting. Interspersed with that, his various nasty epithets he said about Larry Warren, and quite frankly, this is not what people came along to see. I didn't come along to hear that. I mean, this is not what I'd expect from a man in his position. This is a former senior officer in the U.S. Air Force who had a remarkable experience, and he's a very, very important person in terms of his what he witnessed, and I mean, a lot of people.
Are you saying what we should be seeing is basically him setting a standard as a leader of men?
Yes, because this is what he was. He was their commanding officer, and really, you would think that he could actually continue to be their leader and present a united front in the situation with all these men have had to put up with. Now, we've got to remember, it wasn't just me who was there. There was a group of 30 odd people walking with Colonel Holt through the woods. There was a crowd of over 150 in the hall. There were a lot of the media were there. There was several reporters. I wasn't the only one filming Colonel Holt. I mean, we know there's been a lot of fuss over me with what I did with my camera. There were reporters around who were filming him as well. He seemed quite happy.
Can I ask you? He asked you to stop filming at one point when a certain question was asked. Is that correct?
He did. You see, I was the one who asked the question. I was asking about the situation with Larry. I tried to explain to him, well, there is evidence that's a lot of evidence that supports Larry's case. I mean, it's in his book, of course, which Colonel Holt was disparaging. But I mentioned the more recent evidence that has come out since the book was written, since Left at Eastgate was written. And that is the letter that Larry wrote home to his mother the day after his experience, which has come to light after all these years.
Yep.
And I mentioned that to Colonel Holt, and he said, look, I could tell you a bit more about Larry Warren, but could you please switch the camera off? And of course, as a professional cameraman, I did that. I'm not the kind of person who will secretly film a man. So if this is kind of what John is saying, if I had done that, then John would be right in his accusation that I'd breached privacy and things like that. But I didn't. I was straight up, and I was honest with what I was doing completely. The whole time I was there, I did exactly what John wanted me to do. I did my job, which he brought me in and he paid me to do. As I said, paid in the sense that he gave me my expenses and he gave me a little tip on top of that.
Okay.
And so I did that. I mean, this is Colonel Holt. This is what Colonel Holt did. This is the Colonel himself made these statements. I didn't ask him questions about Larry, and I didn't lead him on. He made these statements independently, and I recorded them, as did all the other reporters, the reporters from the media that were around. And so it's completely unfair to blame me for this. So that led to an awful lot of trouble, in which the video at one point was flagged for a false copyright claim, which I challenged with YouTube, and the video
was that brought by Dave Bryant at the time?
Yes, who was there. I mean, he's a friend of John's, and John also publishes his books, and Dave did a speech there, which he then later claimed I breached his copyright by recording the speech, when of course I was helped by someone who knows about copyright law, and I put in a counterclaim, and I quoted a legal precedent for that, a common law precedent and statute in the Copyright Design Patents Act of 1988, and YouTube did restore my video, and the copyright claim was lifted. So there was a lot of trouble even from the start, but it got worse. It got much, much worse. It really did. Now, I mean, following that, of course, Larry had a completely personal argument with Sasha Christie, who he'd been living with. This is in a sense, like two friends falling out. From what I gather, this is how it all started. I mean, obviously I wasn't there. I didn't live there too, but I know that they were living together, and some people say 8 months, some people say 8 weeks. I don't know which is true, but they were living together for a certain amount of time, and they had a blue, as the Australians say.
Yeah.
And what followed that was what happened following that was, of course, the Scottish Paranormal and UFO Festival, which which is well documented. I don't really think we need to go over
Yeah, I agree with
that again. Because everyone knows about what basically happened there. Larry was banned from the conference.
But I think that might have been a point where some of the rest of us might have been drawn into this situation.
And I was there again. I was filming the event unofficially. I wasn't filming I was filming for my own, doing one of my reportages, which was a completely unofficial recording.
Yep.
And I did address this issue. And the response was a blog article from Sasha Christie, which is now, you have to go to Wayback Machine actually to get it because he's edited it since. But she made 1,000-word comment about me on here, and every single word of it is unjust and is false.
Yep.
And it's there's no way I can possibly counter anything that was said. I mean, most of it is just noise. It is literally just noise. It's like it would make more sense if she'd said, "Oh, Ben boils kittens and eats them for breakfast." You know, I can't. How am I supposed to prove that wrong? You know, I can't argue with that kind of thing. But she actually said, I hear that you're a happy slapper. It's very interesting how she words it. She doesn't actually accuse me. She says she heard. I hear you're a happy slapper. I heard a rumor so it must be true, eh? Shall I go round telling everyone that is absolute fact? You got sacked for slapping a colleague with special needs while filming it. Do I know that happened? No, I don't. No one does. Only you. And this is very, very. Sasha's obviously she's aware of legal parameters. She words it as a statement. I'm not accusing you, Ben. I'm posing a possibility. We've all heard a rumor, so is it true? You know, and I should point out actually that this is a very hurtful thing because she, in a sense, because she's been reading what I've been writing and she knows this is hitting me where it hurts.
Yeah.
This is to do now. Happy slapping, I should point out, is a practice where people will bully. It's usually children who do this. They will bully another child, usually in a school playground, and film the event for posterity. It's a very sadistic thing to do. Now, what happened? What happened was the happy slapping. What she calls happy slapping is the most grotesque thing that the Oxford Radcliffe Hospital's NHS Trust tried to label me with when they were crowbarring me out of my job in 2012. They said that I'd bullied another member of staff. Now, this is another porter who's a member of my department, who's served in my department. Now, this is one of the accusations that they will use to get rid of me. What actually happened was that I and this person decided to make a comedy video together for our own mutual amusement and post it to Hopanwo TV. Now, this person was a close friend of mine, still is, I hope. I've not spoken to him for a while, a couple of years, but when I last spoke to him, after this event, we got on perfectly well. This person did not complain himself about my conduct towards him. Neither did his mother, who or any of his family. I'd never dream of doing anything to harm this man. He's a grown guy. He's a grown man, a porter. But the thing about it is he suffers from a comparatively minor learning difficulty, and he's registered as a vulnerable adult. For this reason and this reason alone, my accusers, they reduced this completely harmless, this completely enjoyable, completely innocent project, and they presented it as a sadistic and cowardly attack on my part of him. You see, they said it was basically an assault against him. And so I'd written about this before, and obviously Sasha had read this and decided this was my most sensitive spot, and she'd go straight for that, and nothing I did or said, wrong or right, is actually can possibly justify what she did. In that it was extremely cruel. It was an extremely cruel thing.
And why do you feel that she started this particular attack on you? Was it purely because you started to show some signs of support for Larry, or was there something else that had happened before between you two?
Well, I've known Sasha for a long time, and I've known that she does like to create a scene. She's quite fond of. She can often behave in a very melodramatic way. But nothing I ever did to her. I've never done. There's no history between me and Sasha that would, in that sense, I've never harmed her before. We've never really argued before. But I think she did sense the fact that I was with you and Larry in the car indicated that I was a potential threat. I would be a potential threat in the future, and so she decided to this. Obviously, she's thought better up. She's edited the article, but you can still see using Wayback Machine. You can get previous versions of the article, and that's what she said about me. She didn't name. She didn't name. She called me BEJ, so that could be anyone, couldn't it? Benedict Edward Jacobs. She could always pretend it's not me she's talking about, can't she? She's very crafty. She's very clever. But I mean, anyone who reads that knows she's talking about me. So what happened after that was then Sasha continued to talk about Larry on her blog, on her Infomaniac Housewife blog, and she wrote a whole series of articles. I say series; it's almost like it's an epic. I mean, she was so focused on him. It's like
I believe it's all leading up to some book to discredit Larry and who he is.
Yes,
is that correct?
She's writing a book called The Warranty Commission. She loves these puns. She always puts these sort of puns into the titles. The Warranty Commission, very, very witty indeed. Now, well, so it carried on. It carried on in various different ways. Now, what happened was I started reading through these articles, and I decided to check. Just check what kind of evidence she was posting. What evidence she had against? Because following this personal fallout that she had with Larry Warren, she then started accusing him of professional misconduct in the sense that he was lying about his experience and left at Eastgate, his book, and basically that he was not a real UFO witness. And so I started looking into these. I started looking into the evidence she was posting. Now, one piece of evidence she said really did prove that Larry was not real was the photograph known as the A10 photograph. And this is a photograph that was believed to be taken, I think was taken, in December of 1980 by Larry. He was on his way to his night shift, and he saw an A10 aircraft coming into land at the base, and he decided to get a snap of it, maybe to show his family, just tell them a little bit about his work. They might be curious about his job or something. I don't know. But he took a photo of this aircraft. Now, Larry put this away in his album. And what happened to it after then is very, very questionable. But we do know that in 2013, someone called Mick Sayer came forward with a print of which he says was that photo. But it wasn't Larry that found it. That's the important thing. This information didn't come from Larry.
That's right.
It came from Mick Sayer. And this is an important point. Larry didn't sort of say, hey, look, I found this in my album. What do you think? No, it's Mick Sayer who's actually found it. And it shows an A-10 aircraft coming into land, and above it is a strange-shaped object which looks very similar to the one that Larry reported. And Larry's done a picture about Larry's an artist, and he's painted a picture of the object, and it looks very, very similar. Now, what Sasha then went on to say in her article was, this is fake. This is fake. The original photograph actually belonged to a researcher called Barry Greenwood, who lives in the United States and wrote a book with another researcher called Larry Fawcett, which included Larry. And then the real photograph, the original photograph, is one that was. So what happened was that Barry Greenwood had the original photograph. Larry had created a fake version, a fake print from this original photograph. How that happened, I have no idea, because Larry himself, as you know, has the IT skills of an Edwardian maid.
Absolutely.
I mean, he could barely send an email without help. I mean, I could prove that. I was actually on a radio show with Larry a few days ago, and we were communicating, and he was asking me for help about how he could actually get his Skype on and how he could get the contacts he needed to get onto the show.
Yeah.
And
I think some people also alluded to the fact that they believe that Larry had planted this Photoshop picture in his album some time ago, and just waited for someone to stumble across these images and go, oh my God, there's a UFO.
Well, that's a rather strange way of presenting fake evidence. If you go to the trouble of fake, which of course he would have needed help for this, someone else would have had to do it for him effectively. You then put it in an album hoping someone will stumble across it.
It does all sound a bit too far-fetched, doesn't it, Ben?
Yeah, what if no one ever stumbles across it? I mean, if I was doing that, I would be the one, obviously, to present this kind of evidence. So that's what I would do. So I wrote an article about this, and in it, I mean, I did make the point that so Barry Greenwood, I had obviously been in communication with Sasha, but it seemed he was living in some kind of cabin in the woods and talking to nobody except Sasha, because no one else had heard from him. And so I did wonder, is this really coming from Barry Greenwood? I mean, you have to ask that question: is all this coming from Barry Greenwood, or is it coming from somewhere else?
Yep.
And that I think was a worthwhile thing. And this is when, again, now this is a recurring theme within my relationship with this issue. All I am doing here, in these articles here, is I'm questioning evidence. I'm presenting evidence. I'm questioning evidence that's been presented. I do not make personal comments about anyone in my articles. I do not attack any individual people in my articles. I ask questions and I address evidence. That's what I have done. But what happened was the response has been personal attacks against me. When I posted the first of these articles, Alison Dunlop wrote a response on her blog, which was in the very vein that I mentioned earlier. It was there was a lot of rhetoric, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of personal criticism against me. She used that absolutely classic truth mob cliche. Shame on you, Ben. Shame on you. I mean, they always say this. Eddie Boyce did exactly the same thing over when I challenged him over when he was shill shaming Daniel Leverite. Shame on you, Ben. Shame on you. You're questioning us. Hey, shame on you. It's like that's the moment they say that, they're essentially saying, you're a bad person for saying these things. I'm not going to explain why you're right or wrong. I'm just going to say you're a bad person. I felt very hurt by this because, as I said, I'm not someone who likes getting into fallouts with people. And Alison was someone I got on well with, and we respected each other. And she actually recommended me to the ASAP Seriously Suspicious conference as a speaker. And the transformation of Alison was all very, very fast and complete, and very, very fast and very, very extreme. She turned from a friend and someone I got on well with into a very bitter antagonist almost overnight.
I'll say we all noticed that, to be frank and honest.
Yeah.
It all changed just after the Scottish conference last year.
It was as if she became a different person.
Yeah.
Almost instantly. And what my response to this was, I actually did write a response to her article, which I read it now and you can see how disturbed I am when I read through the comment I wrote, how disturbed I am by what I was saying. I did try to make some points to her, and I decided that she didn't reply. I decided, well, if she's not going to reply to this is going to go on. And so I said, I'll give it till midnight. If she doesn't reply, I'm going to have to block her. And because I know she's now starting to sound exactly like Sasha, and I'd already blocked Sasha for her conduct towards me. And she didn't reply, even though I know she saw the comments. She was replying to other people's comments on the thread. So I blocked her, and it was not. And this was something I really didn't want to do, but I did. It's very sad. This is I don't like losing friendships with people. I don't enjoy it. Now, what happened after that was Sasha could have easily explained to me why I was wrong. I was waiting for Sasha to write a comment. I was waiting for her to write a little article saying, "Look, Ben is wrong about this. I think Ben is incorrect. This is why I'm telling the truth here. This is why it's real. You see, this is why Ben's incorrect, and I have a rational, logical case to explain why what I said about the photograph is real." Instead, she said this. She wrote in an article as a response to this: "Conspiracy theories are raging. As part of Ben Emlyn Jones' special investigation, he demands to know who Barry Greenwood really is and calls for the internet to get a hold of him." Nice. Set the internet on a man in his 70s. Way to go, Ben. And so she claims she sent this to Barry Greenwood. Hi Barry, I'm so sorry to have to tell you this. Ben Emlyn Jones has put out a request on his blog for you to be harassed because you haven't made a statement. And I removed your contact details in the screenshot of one of your emails to me, which I included in my blog, as you know. This is basically his email, which you can look up independently anyway. I haven't published any of our other emails too because it's nobody's business. Ben doesn't see things that way. He thinks he has the right to orchestrate gang stalking. My apologies for any harassment you receive. I know you don't interact with ufology for this very reason, Sasha. This is what she said. So my request, my actual request for people to actually independently approach Barry Greenwood,
Yep.
was it's basically a call to arms by internet bullies to gang stalk this old guy.
Yeah.
That's how she's portraying it. And this is the. Do you want me to read out the poison pen letter I sent to Barry Greenwood?
I think you should, just to show the balance between what she just said that you said and what you really did say.
Right. This is the threatening, abusive tirade that I sent to Barry Greenwood. Dear Mr. Greenwood, it has come to my attention that a British ufology blogger called Sasha Christie has been writing articles claiming that she has received material from you. For example, and I present a link to. Could you confirm or deny whether this is correct? Best wishes, Ben Emlyn Jones. Does that sound to you like a call to gang stalking?
It's quite threatening, isn't it? Not.
But this is what you can't. This is what I mean when you can't. You're not going to get a fair hearing. You can't enter into debates with this sort of thing. I can't challenge. All I can do is what I'm doing now, which is correcting these smears against my character, so that people who might just believe them automatically will hear the other side of the story. So that was that. So now it gets curiouser and curiouser, though. Much curiouser, actually. Eventually, Gary got hold of Barry Greenwood independently.
Yep.
You see, and he actually got an independent print. An independent copy of the print that Sasha had published, and it was a much more detailed copy. It wasn't just a word. Well, it wasn't just like a picture file. It was a JPEG. Sasha actually posted what looked like a JPEG or something like that on her blog. But Gary actually got a 600 DPI scan of the print, I believe.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at it and you can see it in a lot more detail than the way Sasha posted it. You could actually see an awful lot more detail. And as soon as I actually posted this, I was contacted by someone I know. Now, this is where it gets very controversial. Okay, but I was contacted by someone I know who's actually an academic. She's an academic who I won't give her a real name. I'll call her Joan. She works in the academic sector, and I'm not going to tell you who she is because she'll end up like John Mack, being kicked out.
Yeah.
Because they do. I mean, if people show an interest in this sort of thing, they get kicked out.
Their funding and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but she follows what I do. She reads the blog. She listens to my radio show, things like that. Now, one of her jobs is to process enhanced images for publication in scientific journals. This is one of her jobs. Now, she looked at the Greenwood print. This is the supposed original print, the original print of the photograph that Barry took, that Larry took.
Yep.
And I should also point out there's been several other accusations made. For instance, that Larry actually took the photo in the summer of 1985 and not 1980, in December 1980. I think there was something written on the back of it which to that effect. And but there is, even though there are brown ferns at the bottom, and when in summertime, of course, the ferns are all green. The trees have foliage, but that's because they're conifers.
Yeah,
they're evergreens. I mean, I've been to Rendlesham Forest. I've seen the trees. They're conifers. But get back on. That's an aside. That's not the main contention here. Joan is very concerned by a dark blob and a white line on the scan, on the 600 DPI scan of the print. You can't see this on the image produced on Sasha's, or what's on the version Sasha published as a JPEG. You can't see it because the image is too small, and the resolution's not good enough. But there's supposedly nothing anomalous present in the print that Barry Greenwood sent to Gary, the 600 DPI scan. But according to Joan, if you look closely, there is a dark blob and a white line on the scan of the print, roughly where the anomaly appears in the Sayers image, in the same place. So on the Greenwood image, there's this another anomaly which in the very same place as the Sayers image, even though you could just see blank sky there, which is what Sasha's saying. There was no real UFO.
So what we're saying is possibly someone's tampered with it, maybe to remove something from the image.
Yes, this is the thing. There's also the actual aircraft itself in the image. The A-10 aircraft looks thin, as if there's been some loss of resolution from additional processing. So it's a different consistency to the rest of the photo.
Right.
And also you have to. It's very difficult. You have to measure this carefully. Joan has the facilities to actually measure this, but it's a very slightly different angle to the A-10 aircraft in the first print.
Yep.
That is the Sayers print. So this could indicate what we're looking at here is a montage. It's a print that is produced from two different images superimposed. And this is a common method of blanking out some kind of detail that one wishes to hide.
Yep.
Now, I must make this absolutely certain. I know people are going to twist my words no matter what I say. But let me just put in the record, I'm not in any way accusing Barry Greenwood or Lawrence Fawcett or any other individual of tampering with this image under discussion. Well, if this happened, then it happened. This is an image that's a very long time ago. I mean, this is basically a photograph that has not. It has been. That has been. People have been unaware of since at least 1983. We believe it was taken in 1981. It's been completely off the radar and lying in an album since 1983.
Yeah.
So what we're basically saying is that both prints of the A-10 photograph have been tampered with. The Sayer print, of course, has this little UFO blob on it, which looks like it wasn't there originally, and the Greenwood print, the one which Sasha calls the original, also looks as if it's been tampered with. So what's going on? It's a mystery.
Obviously, the good thing is we now know where the true original is, and
yes,
we're going to be doing some direct work on that very shortly.
Yeah,
and
we have.
There isn't on it.
That's right. I mean, there'll be probably there'll be some more news on this, but we have discovered another print, a third print, and you and I are going to be investigating this personally, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's we better not say too much now.
No, we'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, but there'll be more news coming up on this. Now, what happened after that was, I mean, basically, I received no reply at all to that, apart from more bitchy comments on Facebook. And what I think the tactic that these people are using is, like I said, they can't come to me and say, Ben, you're wrong because ... This is a rational logical case that I'm going to present as a reply to your rational logical case. What they're going to do instead is they seem to want to be as intimidating and swaggering as possible in order to enforce silence from the community. I think, unfortunately, it's true that most people simply keep their mouths shut for a quiet life when someone is behaving in this aggressive manner. And I think this seems to be their tactic. Because there's probably a lot of people out there who agree with me and you about Larry. And they've been reading I know for a fact, because these articles had a lot of hits. A lot of people have been reading my replies to Sasha.
Well, we can say also, obviously, we had quite a few personal PMs from certain individuals saying that they didn't want to come down and make openly supported statements of Larry because they were scared to get involved because they didn't want any repercussions. So there are people out there who genuinely are scared of getting involved.
Yeah. They're scared of getting involved, perhaps understandably, because they know the moment they stick their head above the parapet, they're going to get what I'm getting.
Yeah.
They'll be abused by these people as well. They'll get abuse hurled at them. So what we have here is a situation where there's no case against Larry. There's just a bunch of people who hate him, and it is a hate cult. And they are
about it. Yeah.
And they're maintaining this. They're maintaining this animosity by bullying people into silence and into submission, either into agreeing with them or just keeping out of it for the sake of a quiet life.
Yeah.
It's a very, very nasty thing that they're doing. It's extremely it's extremely cruel and inhuman way to treat other people, and of course they exaggerate as well. And everything that you and I do or Larry does is blown out of all proportion. For instance, Larry issued. I discussed this on my Hapanwa radio interview with Larry. Okay,
Yeah.
about that. Larry allegedly threatened people with violence. What Larry did was actually he made some comments about his expression, his desire to employ the lawful use of force. This is self-defense or defense of others who are close to you.
Yeah.
He did it in a very melodramatic way. You know,
but they put it across that it was made to one individual where it wasn't. It was just a statement of defense, wasn't it?
Exactly. They claimed that he was threatening to initiate an attack against a person, unprovoked attack against a person, and which in fact that was not the case. He was, this is why Glasgow University basically banned him, because that gave his enemies the pretext that they were looking for to then go to Glasgow University and say, we've got to ban this guy.
But
and the
again,
same thing
coming back to you defended that, and again you were attacked for that, wasn't you?
I said at that time it was a shame that this had happened. It was a shame these people had actually complained. I didn't believe they had cause to actually complain to the university. And I said this in the video. That's what led to the initial attack against me. Where I was then this person then brought up something they know is very hurtful to me, and they brought it up in my they brought up the story about how I lost my job, and they decided to use that as a weapon against me. Which I said nothing I said or done could possibly justify that. Now another thing they twisted was in a situation where Larry had some solicitor's letters. These were from his solicitor to these people. They were cease and desist letters. And again, there's two sides to this. It's just like the Barry Greenwood situation. Because what I did was, now this is was the wrong thing to do. It was bad legal practice, and was told by Larry's solicitor that I should definitely not have done this. Was that I actually posted these cease and desist letters on my Facebook wall. Okay. Now, according to Larry's enemies, and there's only four. Really, it's only four of them actually that are real hardcore.
Generally we're talking about 4 people, aren't we?
4 people. All this
on the attack.
There are a few hangers-on. There are a few fence sitters. There are a few people undecided. As I said, and a large number of people who are just keeping quiet for the shows to avoid being attacked. But there are really only 4 hardcore people on this. 2 of them are writing books. James Welsh is writing a book about. But this is just unbelievable. I should actually mention, for anyone who's written a book like me, the amount of effort that goes into it is extraordinary. Is a lot, and it's really pathetic that someone would actually go to the effort of writing. 2 people actually would go to the effort of writing a book about.
It's a bit of a race of who can get there first.
I think there's going to be a rush to publish who can publish first. So it won't be long before we see these books. I don't know what Welsh's is called. I'll be saying more about James Welsh in a minute, but first, one thing at a time. Now, according to these people, right? What I did was I published letters that were protected under privacy laws onto social media, which contained the names and addresses of all 4 recipients. This is the hardcore 4, and the reason I did it was for malicious intentions. What I was hoping would happen is that some axeman would read what I posted, and then go around with his chopper and finish off the miscreants. This is how they're presenting it.
Yep.
Okay, this is how they're presenting it. Now, what actually happened was, first of all, it was bad legal practice to post those letters. They were generic template letters. They were not covered by any law. I didn't break any law. In terms of what I did was bad legal practice, and honestly, if I did that to someone who treated me better, I would apologize. The only reason I'm not apologizing to these people because of the way they've been treating me. I don't apologize to people who treat me the way they treated me, but I shouldn't have done it. That's not an apology. That's just a statement of fact. I should not have done it. But this is an important point. Okay, I did not publish any of the addresses. The addresses were blanked out. Right. I don't even have access to the addresses of these people.
You received them blanked out, correct?
I received them blanked out. Larry made sure that they complied with the Data Protection Act of 1988 by blanking out all the addresses. I don't have access to these. I don't know if Larry has access to these addresses. I know obviously the solicitor does. I don't know if the solicitors divulged this with Larry. But I'll tell you what, I have not. I do not know where these people live. And if I did, I certainly would not publish any. I would not publish these addresses ever. I promise you that. So that was the fact. And also, but on the response, I mean, one of the recipients actually wrote me an email. Shall I read out this email?
Yeah, do, please.
Okay. Read the top of those fucking letters, moron. Private and confidential. I'll be complaining to Warren's solicitor in quotes, about you posting our private and confidential letters. You should not have had access to them, and to list them is actually illegal. You've really done it with me, Jones. I'm fucking fuming. Fuck you, Jones. And they went on to threaten me with legal action. All right. This is, I mean, again, have I boiled kittens for breakfast? Where does all this vitriol come from? What have I done to earn this vitriol? So this has been a pretty steep learning curve for me, I'll tell you. I mean, you know, I've seen people in a different light. I've seen the situation in a different light. But anyway, that was the response. Anyway, I hope it's clear. I've not broken any laws, all right? There's nothing in those letters which was protected by any confidentiality law. It was labelled private and confidential because it's a legal letter and I should not have published them. Okay, what's happened was I've not published them again. They were actually removed from Facebook and I've not republished them. I certainly have never published anyone's address, okay? I've not published anyone's address.
Yep, that's clear.
And to be honest, I think I'd probably, given the opportunity, I'd probably do it again. You know, no, I would actually not. I've actually deleted the letters, but it did feel good to fight back, I must admit. But I'm not going to. But I got a bollocking off Larry solicitor. That's not enough for these people. They want more revenge. Now, this is where it goes on a bit further. I was also contacted by James Welsh, who is another person who is dedicating a lot of time and energy to writing a book about how bad Larry Warren is. Okay, because maybe I've got them all. Maybe they think if all they have to do is discredit Larry Warren, and we'll have disclosure. Do you know what I mean? If we let him get away with it, right, we'll never have disclosure. This is the whole future of the planet. Depends on whether or not Larry Warren is discredited, or whether he's allowed to get away with his lies. You know, this is how important truth. Whenever you get a truth mob, its sanctity of the cause is the number one priority. People in truth mobs cannot think about anything else or do anything about anything else.
They become a one-issue group, don't they?
Yeah, this is the ultimate truth mob. Now, so I hope I have actually set the record straight. I hope that's actually that sorted that out, and so people will not actually believe in that. But as I said, I continue to get threats of legal action from Dave Young and also from James Welsh. James Welsh sent me several threats. What he did was he wanted me to contact him because he said, if you don't contact me, I'm going to contact my solicitor and take legal action against you for harassment, for breach of privacy, etc., etc.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I didn't reply to any of these. I thought it was best not to reply. And but these emails continued. And eventually it culminated with this. His inducements he wanted me to contact him, and
This is James Welsh, yeah?
James Welsh, yes. This is a guy who was a Scottish ufologist who actually wrote it's very sad actually, because he wrote a very good book called Corroborating Evidence a few years ago.
I've got a copy myself, yeah. Yeah,
he's actually capable of writing a proper ufology book about the subject of ufology. Now he's writing a book about Larry Warren. I mean, that is the real. I should mention incidentally that one of the tragedies of this whole event is that while these people are so single-handedly, fanatically focusing on Larry Warren, they're not doing any ufology. It's now what this is. I'll send you another. This is the last email he sent to me. Okay. Anybody with half a brain cell can look at these two links that should answer your question about handwriting analysis. Can I come back to the handwriting analysis in a minute?
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll do that in a minute. But anyway, this is another issue anyway. By the way, I have still not had a public or private apology for you from you for breaching my privacy by the ultimate disclosure of my private and confidential information and publishing it online for all the world to see before I got a chance to. That is definitely a breach of privacy. I do not forgive easily, but an apology would be a good place to start, Ben. I tried to look out for you, and you went and did what you did. If no apology is forthcoming anytime soon, I strongly recommend that you lose any excess weight that you may be carrying, because when I see you, I really do hope for your sake that you are able to run. Now, how am I supposed to interpret the last sentence of that email?
It sounds very clear as a threat to you.
It sounds like a threat of violence to me.
Yeah.
It did. I read it, and so did the police when I called them. Now, I don't expect the police to go and send a riot squad round. I know they've got bigger fish to fry, but I thought it should be registered. I think I did the right thing in making a report on that. And I did publish this information. It was in part 8 of the Larry Warren controversy series of articles. Originally called "Is Larry Warren a Fraud?" I changed the title. Now, if this is the case, if this is a threat of violence, I wrote publicly stated that he needs to bear in mind that I am aware of what the law says about the lawful use of force. I had to look it up. I had to look it up before I interviewed Larry for his radio show last year, when I had Larry on my show last year. And I therefore know what force I can use to defend myself and others close to me. The amount of force you can use is proportional to the threat. I say this to Mr. Welsh, if he's listening. I am not only capable of using that level of force, I am willing. I am a big, ugly ex-hospital porter, and I've had to face down, 7-foot tall drug addicts with blood-stained syringes in their hands during my portering career. If you think you can scare me in any way into running or feeling insecure, think again. I'm not running anywhere. If you choose to actually enact your threat, we may well both get hurt, but I think you will get hurt more than me. I will use all the legitimate force that the law allows to defend myself and others close to me if you attempt to approach me violently in any way. So bear that in mind. So it's been registered with the police. I have a crime number. I think so. You have a reference number whenever you do it. And sure, I mean, they're not going to do anything about it, but so what? I mean, it's registered. Yeah,
you've done the right thing there, Ben.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned handwriting analysis. Now, this is another thing that Sasha brought up in her. She's brought this up in her blog, but also in an article she wrote for Outer Limits magazine. Now, this is important. Now, Sasha is not only now a blogger. This is taking it up to another level. She's actually written for a proper UFO magazine. It's quite a good magazine, actually. They're holding an event in Hull in November, which I'm going to attend. I plan, unless I'm banned, of course. But it was just typical if they banned me and not her, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
They got a series of articles called the Rendlesham Rumpus. It's called. There's 4 articles actually. There's one about the breakup between Peter Robbins and Larry Warren, which Sasha claims is because of her and what she's been saying, when in fact Peter hasn't confirmed that. We don't. It seems it could well be a personal issue between Peter and Larry. We don't know. He's not said anything. He's not clarified his feelings. And there's an article by Philip Mantle where he assesses the contribution of Steve Longaro. There's a piece by Rendlesham Responses. It's interesting, actually, that there's in the Rendlesham Responses article in Outer Limits magazine episode, which one is it? I think it's number 4. Yeah, because it's quite a new magazine. They allow John Burroughs a little piece, Adrian Bustinza, Nick Pope, but they don't include Larry Warren. They haven't approached Larry and asked for his perspective.
He didn't get a right of reply. He didn't
get a chance to put his perspective in the Outer Limits magazine article. And then comes the ace of the pack, Sasha Christie, in an article which doesn't have her usual pun. It's called The Truth, the UFO Truth, the whole UFO truth, and nothing but the truth. Right. Now what she does is she basically summarizes her analysis of her position against Larry Warren. This is an article. It's very calm. It's very professionally written. It's a very different tone to the one she uses in her blog. And she blames all this trouble, 100% of all the bad feeling in the UFO community at the moment over this, solely and completely on the shoulders of people like you and me who don't accept her position against Larry, who do disagree with her. Now, one of the things she says is that one of her accusations against Larry is that Larry, and James Welch has said this as well, is that Larry faked a lot of his documents, his military records, his medical records. She said that Larry filled them out pretending to be various doctors and things like that. And I mean, you covered a lot of this on your interview with Larry, didn't you?
Yeah.
He talks about that there was about the fact that he had to go to an eye doctor and where he had to go and things like that, and who the eye doctor was. But according to Sasha and James, it's what is actually there is Larry Warren's handwriting. That's what he's claiming. Now, luckily, there is ways of actually taking a sample of someone's handwriting, comparing it to another, and comparing it and raising the possibility that they may have been written by the same people. But this is very, very expensive. It actually costs £600 to get a forensic graphology, as it's called, an analysis of the two people's handwritings. It costs £600 straight up. Now, when it comes to handwriting analysis as well, and there's actually you actually provided a very interesting article about this. And I should say it's issue 6 of Outer Limits magazine, not issue 4. But you did provide an article which explained, it was from a law school, I believe, from America, that explained that handwriting analysis is not an exact science. It's not like DNA. It's not like fingerprinting.
It's an interpretation.
Yeah, it's actually it's actually much more difficult, not impossible. It's much more difficult to actually prove legally that that a document has been written in fake handwriting, and blame it on somebody and say, well, this is their handwriting, not the handwriting of the person the document is supposed to be. I mean, this has come up over the Marilyn Monroe suicide note. It's come up many, many times. It was inconclusive over that. Now, but it makes it even more. What makes this very, very difficult indeed in terms of Larry is that Sasha is joined with Alison Dunlop on this. Alison of Scottish Paranormal Investigation. We're going to come on to that in a minute, because Alison actually puts the SPI name on this GoFundMe account that she and Sasha put out to raise the £600 to do this analysis. That in itself is an issue, but they're never going to get a conclusive assessment of this. Firstly, they don't have enough. It's only small samples of handwriting. It's not the original documents. She's using illustrations from Leicester and Eastgate.
You must have original documents, and quite a number of them, to even begin the process, from what I've been told.
Exactly. I mean, what we're looking at is print in a book. It's offset litho print in a book. You can't look at that and say, it doesn't even say what kind of pen it was written in. There's no way of knowing what the pressure was like or anything like that. There's no way you can compare.
I noticed in more recent times that they were now sort of putting it to Larry to say, well, if Larry wants to prove himself innocent, he should be willing to hand over original documents. But Larry has nothing to prove. He doesn't need to.
Well, to quote the skeptics, there's a burden of proof issue here. All right, Larry's not the one making the claim. They are.
Yeah.
It's not Larry's job to prove himself innocent. And this is always what do they say about the innocent? Man must be considered innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. They are the ones making the accusations, and legally, it's their job to prove that Larry is actually lying, and these are fake documents. And they haven't got a hope in hell when they don't have access to the original documents. And even then, again, it's very statistical. It's very slippery. It's a very inexact science.
I looked into it a little bit more recently, and I was being quoted figures of £2,500 to £3,500 to even really do the beginnings of a decent analysis.
So it's even more than the
600 will get you in the door and probably get someone to look at it and go, there might be something here to look at, and that's as far as it goes.
And unfortunately, it doesn't matter what happens. I mean, whatever happens, the only answer they're going to give is, well, this might be Larry's handwriting, it might be not. I can't say for sure. And so all that money is going to be wasted. And all that money that people have donated, and there's a lot of, I know one guy donated 150 quid.
Yeah.
£150.
So if it doesn't go ahead, what happens to that money, Ben?
Well, that's another good point. I mean, so far, there's nothing has been published. Sasha has published nothing about this supposed handwriting analysis. But Alison and Sasha presumably have this £600. And so I'd like to, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to actually go ahead with this pointless and futile attempt at analysis, which will not work? Or are they going to return it to the donors? I mean, this is starting to sound a little bit like Jill Stein. When Jill Stein demanded recounts in the election.
Yeah.
But you send her $7 million, she'll arrange the recounts. She only managed to arrange one out of the three, but guess what? She gets to keep the money. Yeah, I mean, this is £600 of people's money. I think the people who donated the money, I would need to demand answers from Sasha and Alison and Scottish Paranormal Investigation. It's because this is the name SPI has been put onto.
Their name has been attached to it. So,
yeah.
I mean, how do you think this, in the longer term, affects SPI? I mean, this was Malcolm Robinson's creation.
Yes, right. I mean, he created it.
Was this his intention when he created it to go down this kind of route?
Well, Malcolm hasn't.
One individual, or
I know. This is not paranormal investigation. This is a campaign of to discredit an individual. That's not paranormal investigation. You're right. Malcolm did create SPI. I mean, he hasn't actually said anything about this at all. He's not said anything about how he feels about this. But one thing I gather, and there's other reasons for thinking. I mean, maybe we'll come on to that in a minute about other reasons I found out. But basically, Alison Dunlop seems to be the head honcho at SPI now.
I think I've been told that as well now. Yeah, she's pulling the strings of it.
So it seems that Malcolm doesn't have the authority to put a stop to this. I mean, if I'm wrong there, then Malcolm needs to explain how I'm wrong. Because this is when there's no answers, this is what we have to speculate, especially based on what we've seen, based on the fact that Alison has put the SPI's name on this attempt, this stupid attempt, and an impossible task, this impossible, expensive white elephant that these people have created, and put the SPI's name on it. And the only way she could do that is if she's basically in charge.
She definitely obviously has a lot of control at the moment, because you were thrown off one of the groups, weren't you, recently?
Yeah. Now we've got to come to this. Yeah, I'm glad you come. I'm glad you brought this up. Now this was this actually happened quite recently. It happened last week, in fact. I suddenly discovered. Well, someone actually let me know about this because someone else within the group had got into an argument with Alison about me because she put some comments on SPI, and I replied, and we entered into a dialogue, as you do. Which was about the subject she was posting about, which is I thought what SPI was for. It was about a paranormal subject. This person then contacted me and said, "Look, I'm really sorry, but I've had a bit of a row with Alison over this, and you've just been banned from SPI, and I'm not supposed to talk to you." And so I looked into this. I actually went to the SPI page and I clicked the link. Content not available. Which means that I've been banned from the SPI page. And I thought this is odd, and I knew who'd done it. I mean, Alison had banned me. I mean, this person told me that Alison had been the one who banned me. But I thought, hang on a minute, this is a personal issue between me and Alison. It's got nothing to do with SPI. I mean, this isn't Alison's personal page, is it? And so I contacted someone else from SPI and I said, look, what's going on here? Is there any chance you could get me back in there? Do you have the admin powers on that group to actually reinstate me, because this is a completely unfair situation. I've been banned by someone because I'm having a personal Barney with them, and this person wrote back dejected and just said, look, I'm sorry, but Alison, what Alison says goes on that group. She's in control. She's the only real or she's the only admin on there. So basically, I'm banned from SPI because Alison doesn't like me personally.
She did give you a reply in a comment to someone else's, didn't she?
Well, she did actually. She posted this whole thing on her blog. Let me read out what she actually said. And this is how diplomatic and logical these people are. Let me just. Where is it? She actually. If I can find it now. Oh yeah. Well, where is this? Oh, I'm just trying to find it. Oh, here's another laugh. Ben Emlyn Jones just asked someone to ask me if I would unblock him from SPI Scotland. This is after he blocked me for speaking the truth about his buddy Warren. All of those who can see quite plainly what is going on have endured the put-downs thrown our way from Ben. So, no, Ben, you can fuck right off until you retract everything you said and give me and my colleagues a massive apology for your behaviour. It's not even full moon, yet the loonies abound this evening. What the fuck is going on? Right, this is her response. This is what she posted on her. It's on her personal page. Now, I don't know where to start. Again, you can't actually reply. This is noise. I mean, I can hurl abuse back at her, but you can't. There's no logical case I can actually say here. First of all, I didn't block her for speaking the truth about Warren. I actually posted that I didn't think what she was saying was the truth.
Yep.
And then she posted a really scathing article about me, which she had no intention of replying to. I blocked her because then I realised that she'd basically drunk Sasha's Kool-Aid. As for put-downs, I mean, if I've said anything about anyone involved in this case, which they consider a put-down, then I think it's one they deserve. And I'll say it again, and I don't apologise. I'm not going to retract anything, and I'm not going to apologise because I don't believe I've got anything to apologise for. And as for the loonies, I mean, is this the loonies abound? I mean, it's an epithet, loonies. And someone else actually says, this is another person who's a mutual friend of Alison and I. And unlike some people, I don't actually go around demanding that everyone, if I fall out with these person, you have to fall out with them too. Otherwise, you're disloyal to me, and I'm falling out with you. I'm not one of these. I don't descend to that childish level. He actually said, I always say build bridges. Social media has become a nasty place at times. Keep good communication going. I realise the good work you do, though don't be messed around. But personal attacks can just escalate. We all believe in truth, and weird is normal for us. So this guy is actually trying to stand up for me.
Yep.
Now the response from that was, look, I know Ben is your pal, but please do not try to stick up for him to me. It won't work. He's a nasty piece of work. You can see it because he has not done it. You can't see it because he's not done it to you yet. So there we are. That's so basically this is a very important post because it's saying basically in a sense this is a shot across. Alison is giving this guy a shot across his bows.
Yeah.
She's saying, you've seen what we've done to Ben. You're next. You've seen what we said about him. You might be next if you don't show a bit more. What was it Darth Vader said? I find this lack of faith disturbing. And then Alison said, and if Ben was so bothered about being chummy again, he would have unblocked me and messaged me personally to say why I should accept him back to SPI Scotland. He did not. He did neither of those things. I thought it was okay to continue his arseholishness towards me, keep me blocked, but I'd allow him on the group I run. He's an idiot. Well, firstly, I'm not trying to be chummy again with Alison. I'm trying to be a member of a group which I assumed was not her personal property and her own personal little ballywick on social media. But I was wrong. See, I didn't actually understand the situation. I thought SPI was an organisation with members, not her. It was not sort of basically her personal property. But she's treating it as if she is her personal property. And by talking to other members of the group, I gather that it pretty much is.
It sounds a lot like the old.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like when someone says, "Right, I'm taking my bat and ball away. Sod the rest of you."
Yeah, and Sasha then chimes in, after all this, why the hell would you let him into the group anyway? Insanity. And this is when John puts in his little comment about, which we talked about earlier, which we dealt with earlier. And then Sasha describes me as morally bankrupt, and then she makes this comment about the money he supposedly lent me, and that's the remainder of that's where it ends with that particular line of that particular line of.
So that's basically where we are now.
This is a situation we're in now. There's going to be there's going to be updates, I'm sure. There's definitely going to be an update. So, I mean, you and I know we have plans, don't we? Which we can't reveal all the details.
Yeah, we've got a few things to
but it does involve some updates on the A10 photo and a couple of other things. And basically, I think anyone watching this can judge for themselves. And this is almost a rhetorical question. Who's the one being rational here? Who's the one being logical? Who's the one with the evidence and who's willing to discuss evidence? Because you know the answer to that already, right? You know that Sasha and her cronies have put forward a case against Larry Warren that contains no real evidence and is only being believed and only being sustained because of their own very very aggressive behaviour towards those who disagree with it. It's no different from a religion when religions were guarded by the Inquisition. You know, people believed in it because if they didn't believe in it, they'd end up with the thumb screws. Or
I'd almost use the word almost cult-like.
It is cult-like. Well, I actually did. You might have heard my radio show, which I did when I did my year-end summary. I actually did compare truth mobs, just generally comparing truth mobs to a religious cult. I got hold of a culty programming website that gave a list of various features of cults, and I compared this to the truth mob phenomenon, and I found that in about 80% of the cases, it's the same thing.
But in this case, Ben, what is the allure to pull what were reasonable people? Because we knew them before, and they were all nice people. What is it that pulled them in and dragged them down that route?
It's actually extremely disturbing and to contemplate and to look at the change of the people. I mean, Alison Dunlop in particular, but the same goes for. I mean, Dave Young, I didn't, and James, I didn't know so well, but Alison and Dave as well, in particular. It's frightening to see how they transformed from people who I got on perfectly well with.
Yep.
And I was nice to them. They were nice to me. As I said, Alison was supportive of my work. She's done an interview with me. I've done interviews on her show, and we got on perfectly well, right up until almost the eve of this trouble breaking out. This wasn't like 4 or 5 years ago. This was 2016. We did the 2015 and 2016.
The transformation was sudden.
It was sudden and it was extreme. It was almost overnight. And very, very, very quickly, and it was very, 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 very radical transformation. And it makes me look at it. It started making me look at everybody around me and wondering whether all people have this hidden side to them. I don't know who do I trust? Do you see what I mean?
But we mustn't let that happen.
No.
At the end of the day, we are who we are, and we'll continue to do that. And if other people want to change, then they change. That's up to them. Exactly.
But I mean, I go along with I try to take heart from this. I try to think to myself, well, you know, I'm actually making a stand for what's right in a situation where what's right is being attacked by what's wrong. And so that's something I should feel proud of myself for.
Even if you were wrong, Ben, you have the right to be wrong.
Yeah.
A truth mob doesn't want you to have that right. That's the problem.
That's exactly it. It's no different from a religious, no different from the days of the Inquisition. It's no different from the Soviet Union, where people had to believe in Marxism, Leninism, otherwise they'd be in the Gulag. Yep. It's no different from today's Saudi Arabia, where you're not allowed to question Sunni Islam. This is a cultic mentality. This is anti-knowledge. Because I mean, as long ago as ancient Greece, people worked out the rules of logic. Guys like Aristotle worked out the rules of logic, and about how you could find out what was real by using the rules of logic and by entering into discussions with other people who had different views, and basically having a competition, a logic battle between you and someone else until what was real came out from that battle. That battle would reveal the truth.
Yep.
But the moment you start using sophistry, which is like a pseudo logic, which is designed to manipulate others, or in this case, outright threats and aggression, then you essentially are saying, I have no logical case. These people have no logical case, and they're essentially admitting it. We have no logical case against Larry Warren. We just want people not to like him, and so we're going to essentially browbeat them into not liking him. And the few people who actually we cannot actually intimidate and are not willing and are resisting us and digging their heels in, we're going to attack them and make them an example so that others will follow in their path. This is what we saw in that dialogue between Alison and this other person who's trying to stand up for me last week.
Yep.
Don't try to defend him to us. And again, that's a shot across the bows. That's a warning shot.
For me, it's sad to have seen other people dragged into what was or seems to be just a personal vendetta from one person to another.
It is.
You know,
it's sad because
they just can't see that.
Yeah, there are some people I know who are in dialogue with Sasha and her pals. They're not committing either way. They're not committing to supporting them or committing to resisting them, but they're just kind of like they're almost like skirting around the edges. And I think to myself, these people, and I mean, these people do need to realise there's only one side to this. And I've explained to you why there's only one side. This is not a battle of logics and who's right or who's wrong. This is a battle between me. I want to present a logical case, and people who are actually in denial of entering into any kind of a logical dialogue. There's only one side to that. If you think otherwise, then enter into a logical dialogue with me.
Agreed.
But yeah, I'm trying to look on. I'm looking on the bright side of this, Tino. I mean, I'm trying to think to myself, well, at least I'm actually not. I mean, I'd feel much worse if I was just not saying anything and I was like biting my tongue and saying, I'd feel much worse. I think I feel glad and proud of myself that I'm making a stand on this subject, and I think to myself, well, there you are, Ben. You should realise, you're not a pushover, and you are willing to put your money where your mouth is. You say you believe in justice and you believe in what's right and wrong, and here you're not just willing to talk about it. You are actually willing to do something. And so that's how I feel. And if I lose friends in the meantime, well, maybe they were never friends to begin with. Maybe they were just. So maybe I shouldn't lament the loss of these friendships as much as I do. Maybe I think it was Winston Churchill who I actually used this as an illustration on one of my articles in the series. So you have enemies, do you? Good. It means you've stood for something in your life.
And I think that's a good point to bring this to an end, mate.
Yeah, so I really appreciate this, Tino. Please, ladies and gentlemen, there's more than one side to every story. You've just been having one side, and it's not being given to you rationally. It's being shoved down your throat with a gun pointed to your head. This is the other side to the story.
Perfectly put, Ben. Brilliant. All right then, buddy. We'll catch up soon in the next day or two.
Yeah, that's great.
Lovely. You take care of yourself, and thanks for the chat tonight.
You too, mate. All the best.
Cheers, mate. Night.
Night.
Take care.
Take care.